going on, everyone? It's Bales, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Trade Talk. It's Wednesday, and we're ahead of round 13, which is meant to be the easy buy. So I haven't actually had a look at who the most trade in and out players this week, so it'll be very interesting to see who they are. So obviously we can see if you're on the screen, but it'll be interesting to see what coaches are doing, because it is a bit of it's a tricky week because there's not any sort of obvious guys to trade out necessarily, but there's obviously some guys coming off their bye which you want to be targeting off of Brisbane, Freo, Sydney and St Kilda. So they're the four teams you want to be looking at targeting. But there is also some other interesting options which will probably, I'm sure they'll be in these options. So let's get stuck straight into what the coaches are doing out there for the most traded in and out players this week. So the most traded in player this week, Harvey Harrison from Collingwood. So he's obviously got his buy in round 14. 7.4k coach to jumping on him. Obviously cheap price, 221k. It really comes down to how long are McCreary and Hoskin are going to be out for. If they're going to be out for, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, then Harrison becomes an option because he's going to be a guy that may be able to play in round 15 and this week for you. But I'm a little bit nervous because apparently Hoskin and McCreary could be playing this week. We just don't know. And then Lipinski is probably going to be back this week, and so is Dan McStay. So it makes me a bit nervous, the fact they've actually got a few guys that could be coming back in. So I'm not sure that Harrison's going to hold his spot. If he does this week, he might not be there in 15. So I'm a bit nervous trading into a guy like that he could maybe not be there post his bye. Bailey McDonald, 6.1k coach, so jumping on him. He obviously came in for Seamus Mitchell last week, but Mitchell should be good to go this week. So it just comes down to, did Bailey McDonald do enough to hold his spot? And I'd probably feel a bit safer jumping on a guy like him over Harvey Harrison, just because I think McDonald's job security would be better if he holds his spot this week. But again, both these guys, I'm a bit nervous that they don't hold their spot post this round, because they've got the bye next week. And then obviously we know that teams sort of have like a mini reset on their bye. Then it's going to be a bit sort of nerve-wracking wanting them to play in round 15 when we're already short on numbers. So we've got to be using our trades smartly. But they are obviously options. I'm just not sure about them, that's all. Andrew Brayshaw, 4.8k coach, jumping on him. He's the best premium coming off his buy. So if you can afford him, he is the guy to definitely look at bringing into your side, because, yeah, he's an absolute fantasy gun, averaging 111. That's considering that at the start of the year, he was really under an injury cloud, with a knee injury. So like looking here, like he had obviously some good scores here, but it's really since, I think it was this game here where he said he's in, or was it ahead of this game, the Hawthorn one? It was ahead of one of these two games where he said he was injury-free. And obviously 100% in every game since. And yeah, he's got some good matchups on the horizon as well. The next sort of 5 or 6 weeks don't look too bad coming up here. And we know Brayshaw can score against anyone. So I do like him as probably one of the best targets coming off the bye. Lachie Neale, 4k coaches jumping on him. Now, he is underpriced. He is priced at, 829k. That puts him at about, that 98, 99 region being priced at. So, his value, he's obviously shown some good form of late with 300s in a row, 4 of his last 5 being hundreds. But I'm looking at the fixtures here. Connor Nash tag potentially. James Rowbottom tag, potentially. Seb Ross tag, potentially. Richmond probably won't tag. Eagles, O'Neill probably go to him. Harms has done a job in the past and it's been successful against Melbourne. O'Connor or Atkins. Like, there's potential tags in every one of these games here. That's the one thing I'm a bit nervous about with Neil. He does present value, but there is that risk that he could be tagged in a game. So, yeah, I'm a little bit cautious with Neil, but I do think he is value and he could be a good option if that's what you can get to. Matty Johnson, he's probably my pick of the rookies this week. 3.6k coats are jumping on him. I've already got him. I got him, I think, 2 weeks before he got suspended. So against the Bulldogs, I believe it was. So he's the pick of the rookies if you need a downgrade option. I'd rather him over Harrison McDonald. I'd rather pay that extra 120, 130 odd K. I think is he like 350 or 349. So he's about 220k more than these guys. I'd rather pay up for Johnson and get him because I think he'll be there through the buys and he's shown that he's got a pretty good role and he's scoring a decent rate. That average of 44 is obviously not really telling the full picture because these 2 games he was a sub, but in the other games he played, like 55, 41, 63, 40 in 30% game time, then 68. So I think he's got a good scoring rate. I think he'll score 60s, and I think he's a good option to bring in. Caleb Sarong, if you can't get out to Brayshaw, I think Sarong's one of the next best premiums, 3.4k jumping on him. He's been great all year, averaging 109, and yeah, if you can get Sarong, and even if you've already got Brayshaw, I think it's fine to have both. I think both are still going to score at a good rate. So I would, if you've got Brayshaw, I would still look at targeting Sarong. I wouldn't be sort of put off by the fact that they play for the same side, because I think they can both put up some good numbers in the same team. Josh Fahey, 3.3k coaches jumping on him. I think it's just because he's 200k and he's played a couple of games as sub. I'm not sure he gets in the 22, and he does have that round 15 bye, which really does sort of put a dampener on looking at him as an actual option. And he has got a break even of 70, which is crazy considering his basement 200k. Obviously with the 2 sub scores, that's obviously the reason why. But yeah, I'm not sure I'd be going him unless you absolutely have to, but I'm sure there's going to be other options. Ben Keys, now 3,000 coaches jumping on him. I'm really interested in this. So break even of 25, he's priced at 621k. We obviously know he's a proven scorer in the past, back-to-back hundreds, and they coincide with 70+% CBAs. Do I think that he's going to continue at 70%? Probably not. I think I see him more of that 55 to 65% midfielder, but he has played well the last couple of weeks when he's been in there, and he's done some jobs. So like this week, does he go to a Tim Kelly or something like that in the midfield? The week after, he'll obviously go to Dacos, but will he... Dacos can go in the midfield, so is he going to follow him there? Is he going to play exclusively forward? Who knows? But I think he's still a good option to bring in. I would personally prefer to watch him this week, wait till after his bye, and then bring him in. Even though you're paying a premium, I just think that it's very important that we bring in round 12 players coming off the bye, because looking at your teams in round 14 and 15, most of us, myself included, are going to be really struggling. Well, I wouldn't say I'm struggling, sorry. We're all going to be struggling in round 14 and 15 to be fielding 22, if not 18. And I want to make sure my team's in the best possible position to be fielding close to 22, so I can hopefully take advantage of that. So if you guys want to do that as well, maybe Ben Keys is a guy you target after his buy in round 15. Kieran Briggs, if you didn't jump on last week, he was amazing last week. 2.6k coaster jumping on him now. With that huge score last week, I think was it 117 that he ended up getting? Yeah, 117. Obviously, back-to-back scores over 110. He's been a beast since he's been inside, and he definitely looks like their number one ruck. And in terms of matchups coming, so Goldie's obviously the toughest matchup for rucks. Then he's got probably Sean Darcy might be back for this game. If not, he'll have Jackson. Then he's got the Melbourne duo, Reeves, who's restrictive. So in terms of opposition, they're coming up a little bit tougher, but break even to 12, made 72k last week. I think is a great option to bring in if you need a ruckman and you're not too heavy on that round 15 buy. Tyrone Thomas, now it's interesting that 2.1k coaches are jumping on him with that round 15 buy. He's obviously really cheap at 492k. Scored an 82 last week. I'd probably want to see, he's probably a guy that I'd probably look to target post round 15 to round 16, maybe get your final rookie off field for him if he continues playing well. I still, with this round 15 buy, I'm just a bit nervous bringing guys in. But again, if you're not heavy on the round 15 buy and you're keen on Tyrone Thomas, I don't mind bringing him in. He's at a cheap price, so I don't mind it. Jack Sinclair, he's cheap as well for what we know he can do. 830k, so it's not really like cheap, but he was priced at 900 and something odd k at the start of the year. Now he's 830. He's been a little bit up and down in terms of scoring. He's had some big hundreds. He's had some lower in the 70s, whereas last year he was a lot more in 90 plus in every game, whereas this year his floor seems to be in the 80s. But I still think 830k he presents value, and coming off the bye, worst case, he's going to average you probably 90 for the next 4 or 5 weeks, and you can always trade him to another premium in 4 or 5 weeks. But he's a good player to get in to get you through these bye weeks. At absolute worst, but at best, he's a top 6 defender, so I don't mind him. Jake Lloyd, a little bit similar to Sinclair. I'd rather Sinclair though, but Lloyd's got a good matchup this week against St Kilda. I'm just not sure I trust Lloyd at this moment in time. Like, he's shown over the last 2 years, he's not really a guy that we're going to be looking at a top 6 defender. I know that I said Sinclair, well, worst case, he won't be. He won't be a top 6 defender, but I think Lloyd, I don't see him being a top 6 defender anyway. Whereas Sinclair, I do. So I don't think I'd be targeting Lloyd. But again, if you're keen on him, I don't mind the play. Merritt, I don't know if I could justify paying 982k for Merritt now. Yes, I know that he's scored 150s in his last 3 weeks. He's got the bye next week. If you're really keen on him, target him around 15. Personally, for me, I'd be getting Andrew Brayshaw and Sarong over Merritt. If you've already got Brayshaw, I'd get Sarong, and most people won't have both Sarong and Brayshaw. I guess if you got both, then why not? But then maybe if you want to be a bit risky, maybe Jack Steele's a guy you look at. But Elliot Yeo's cheap, 1.5k coast. I've taken the plunge on him. Again, he's just another one that he's got the bye next week. Just watch him this week, see how he goes. He puts up another 90-odd score. Again, he's going to be a good player to upgrade your last rookie up to. So I'm not really keen on jumping on him this week. I'd be getting on him the week after, watching him for one more week, because then at least if he plays well this week, you've got a 2-week sample size. So that's why I'd be waiting 1 week on Yeo. But it was good to see him play well last week. Then you got guys like Chad Warner. People are bringing in. I'm not as keen. He's more of a better real-life player than fantasy player. Jack Steele, I'm not convinced with the injury. I'm obviously an owner. I've owned him for 4 weeks. He scored 3 scores under 90 in those 4 weeks. I wouldn't be sort of saying to anyone to trade him in. But if you're keen on Steele and you think that the week will do him good, then he's at a very cheap price for a guy that we thought was probably going to be a top 4 midfielder. 851k. He's got a great record against Sydney, averaging 115 in his career. So if you're keen, he's got a good month coming up. Brisbane at Marvel, I think Steele matched up well against the harder opposition. So I think that he'll score fine in that Brisbane game. Then he's got some good matchups there. So if you're keen, I don't mind it. It's just a bit nervous, a bit of a nervous watch. Zach Butters, he's been amazing. But I can't justify bringing him in with that round 15 bye. He is now, 918k. That's really expensive. And just with that, if he had the round 12 bye and he was just coming off his bye, then I wouldn't mind paying up for him. But the fact that he's got a bye to come, and you've got guys like Brayshaw, Sarong, Sinclair, even Steele. Like, I know Steele's obviously injured, so I probably wouldn't bring in Steele. But you've got all these guys coming off the bye. I'd rather those guys over Butters, personally. But again, if you're keen, if you're not heavy on round 15 bye, or you don't care about buys, then feel free, go ahead. Ryan Marrick, or Marriage, I'm pretty sure it's Marriage, but it could be Marrick, I'm not sure. But people just bring him in, I think, as a placeholder, just in case he makes his debut this week for the Eagles. If he does, then we might be able to launch into a guy like him, but I'm not sure with that round 14 bye. Maybe we watch him this week, do what I was probably saying for people to do with Mullen. If you can, wait a week, then he has his bye. If he's in the team around 15, then we launch into him that week. That's probably the road I'm leaning towards now, but I'm not sure. Then you've got like Sicily, Wardlaw, Goulden, Ryan. Ryan's not a bad target off his bye. I don't mind Callum Ward as well here, actually. Like, a few people shut me down with it, but 505k, break even to 16, 134 last week. He's got the role now. It's a 2-week play. If you can afford another round 15 player, if I could, I'd probably launch into him, but I don't think I can, which sucks. But if I could get him, I don't mind it. 505k is really cheap. And if he can get you 80s for the next 2 weeks, he'll probably go up 70, 80k, and then you can trade him. And Gordon as well, expensive price. I guess if you want to bring him in, you can. I just think he is too expensive to bring in. But he has been obviously amazing, and if you're keen, then yeah, feel free. Most traded out players. Let's have a look at who the coaches are trading out this week. Roy Atkins, 9.4k coaches. Most people are getting rid of him. So I'm in a weird spot with Atkins. So obviously I've got him. I'm not sure if I want to be keeping him because he's not going to be in my team long term. I can get him to a better player, but then part of me is like, well, if I hold him, he might actually be really helpful in rounds 14, 15 because they're not going to be playing at Darwin. So who have they actually got in the next 2 games? So Gold Coast have got Carlton, the MCG, then Hawthorn at Metricon. So they're 2 pretty nice matchups. Like funny enough, at the moment with my trades, I'm actually keeping him. At the moment, I'm getting rid of a couple of other guys instead, which I'll go through later on. But at the moment, I'm actually keeping him. I just think he's going to be helpful in rounds 4 and 15. Obviously, that's obviously on the basis he's going to be in the side. I think he will because Gold Coast won again, and Gold Coast have been winning with him in the side. And I think there are other guys that are maybe closer to the fringe than what he is. Maybe he's moved to like that sort of 17, 18, 19 player in the team, not that 22 or 23rd player. So I think it's very team dependent. If you're fine and the buyers coming forward and you don't really have any other obvious options to trade, then feel free, go ahead. But at the moment, I'm actually leaning towards potentially keeping him. But I'd still tick off people trading him. Luke Pedlar, I don't mind people jumping off of 4,500 coaches, jumping off him. Obviously, he's put up 3 scores in a row that haven't been too great. Obviously, a couple of 40s and I think a 50. Yeah, 56 there, and then the 40s before he got that A, but then he got a 45 before that. So he has had a bit of a tougher run with some of these games like Geelong, Bulldogs, Brisbane are tougher games. I think it is time for him to go. Break even to 70, averaging 59. It is the time probably to go. You could probably hold him for one more week, the Eagles matchup, but I think it's a good week if you want to get rid of him week early. Not many people have got that many people to trade out, so people are maybe looking ahead to trading out round 14 and 15 players, so I don't mind Pedlar being one of those guys you trade out first. Alex Chincotta, 4.4k coaches jumping off of him. I think he might not even be named. He only scored 39 last week. If he's named, you could keep him for one more week, but again, he's at 400k. He's going to be one of those guys that you can get rid of him because he's on that bad buy. You can make money off of him, and so I'd be fine trading him. Seamus Mitchell, I would be a little bit less keen on trading. 4.3k jumping off of him, but I think he'll be in the team this week. I think he'll be fine. It was just illness. Break even to 28. He's still got a little bit of money to make as well. He's a defender forward, so in round 15, when we've got a lot of these premiums forwards on buy, so you've got like your Taranto, Rosie, Butters, Canelio, Bailey Smith, Jack McRae, if you've got those two. I don't know if I said Canelio, but Canelio's got his buy. There's a lot of these forwards that in round 15 that have got the buy, so Mitchell could be quite useful in that buy with the defender forwards. So I wouldn't be trading him. Fiorini, 3.8k coaster jumping off him. A little bit the same with Atkins. It could be a play to hold him. He has dropped a bit of money though. That would be the only, at least Atkins has still got a break even, I think in the 70s. Yeah, 78. He's only had that, how many scores has he gone under 78? So he obviously had the 30. So his last 2 he did, but let's not forget that was at Darwin as well. So not a very good ground to score at, but he was pretty consistent before that. So, Fiorini, though, hasn't got the role, whereas Atkins doesn't have the role either. So, you can't really use that argument for role. But I think, Fiorini's dropping cash quicker. So, I'd probably be a bit more keen to jump off Fiorini than Atkins. But I'd be happy to jump off both. So, again, if your team is fine getting rid of Fiorini, then feel free. Degoe, 3,500 coaches have got to trade him, obviously, with the 3-week suspension. And obviously, he'll be out for 4 weeks now. So, he's got to go. Greenwood is a little bit similar. Obviously, he's going to be out this week with the concussion. Even if he comes back next week, then he's going to be on buy. He's missing 2 of his next 3. His break even would have probably gone up to 46, which is still low, but you've probably got to jump off now, which is really unfortunate for those coaches jumping on him last week, because he looked like a good option. Now we've got Zeeble and Sheasel, so it's pretty similar in terms of trade outs between the two. So start of the week, I was Zeeble out first because I thought more expensive, you can get into a better player, I'd get rid of him. But when I thought about it on Monday and yesterday, Zeeble's got the role, whereas Sheasel has been switched around everywhere. He's playing forward, playing midfield, playing defence. I think both can go. With Aaron Hall in the side, that's really messed things up. If Aaron Hall gets dropped, I'd probably be inclined to hold both if you can. Maybe you could trade one if you don't want to be having. That's probably going to be Sheasel then, because Zeeble's obviously got the role of no Hall if Hall isn't in the team. But yeah, I think both can go before their bye. I don't see them being top 6 defenders in the current system that they're playing with Hall in the side. But if Hall gets dropped, then obviously that does change things. But I guess team selection will probably decide that. But I think a lot of people are going to be getting rid of one to get one of those round 15 players off your ground and getting in a round 12 player. James Warple, again, it is probably not a bad time for him to go as well. He's got the bye next week, so I don't mind going early on him. He's got Brisbane, which is a little bit of a tougher matchup. Will Day, 2.2k coaches jumping off him. He did cop a tag, which I didn't actually notice too much watching it, but from what people said, he did actually get a tag from Drew there. Got a 70, obviously scored well in the last quarter. Copped a tag, a couple of weeks ago against, what was it, the week before, against West Coast. Let me have a look. No, so it was, St Kilda 101. Then he got tagged for an 86 against West Coast. So, yeah, he obviously hasn't scored great in these games here, but he's still got the role. So I'm more inclined to keep him. and see how he goes this week against Brisbane. If he puts up a good score, you can hold him, but if not, then you can always trade next week. So I'd probably keep Day for one more week at least. I'd rather get rid of Shizu and Ziwa, I think, over Will Day, because for a start, they're more expensive. And 2, Day's probably got a better role. So I'd keep Day, I think. Samson Ryan, yep, time to go. Ruben Jinby, time to go. I know they got the buy in rounds 14 for Jinby, 15 for Ryan, but that's fine. They obviously have made their money. Jinby, did he go up or down last week? So he got a 58. He went down 1k. So again, you could keep him for one more week. Maybe keep him through the buys because he's got good job security. But again, I'm fine to trade. And Samson Ryan as well. He doesn't have that role, obviously, with Nank in the team. So I'd be happy to trade Ryan as well. Alan Davey, yep, he can go. He's not even in the team at the moment. Van Rooyen, a few people going early. I'm considering going early as well. At the moment, I think he's actually in my current trade plans. I'll take that 77 from him last week and I'll cash out. Low break even at 28. If he was to score another 70, he'd probably go up another 20, 30 odd K. But again, he scored a few 40s in there. Even if he gets a 50, 55, he's not actually going up that much. So I don't think he's necessarily a hold, and I think you can move him this week or next week if you wish. Cowan, yep, he's a red dot. McPherson, again, he's an expensive price if you can get him up. Well, he's actually dropped a little bit, actually. Yeah, obviously dropped a fair bit with those 2 low scores. I think you can go if you've got him. Unless you... Defender forward, he's actually going to be quite useful in round 14, 15. Again, it's going to be team dependent. Same with Fiorini and Atkins. If you can hold them and do your upgrades around them, maybe. But McPherson's at a good price. You could probably trade him. With a high break even, he's going to keep dropping cash as well. So it's a tough one. But he's not going to be a top 6 defender forward, so you could trade. I don't know why people are trading Ashcroft now. 1.4k jumping off him. If you held him last week, I think you're going to be holding him through the buys. He's going to be playing the next 3 weeks. So I wouldn't be trading Ashcroft now if you didn't trade him last week. I moved off him last week, but if you didn't, I wouldn't be trading. And then guys like Chesser, Wilmot are getting moved. Walsh, interesting. People are jumping off him, probably for that low score, but maybe it's just rage trades. Maybe people haven't reversed their rage trades yet, but I wouldn't be trading Walsh. And then you've got Hollands, Witts, Drury. People moving guys on that buy, or obviously red dots. So I'm fine to move Hollands, Witts, and Drury. Witts, maybe you could keep if you've got a Cameron to cover him, and then you've got a guy for rounds 14, 15. So I actually probably wouldn't be trading Witts, to be honest. Out of the 3 of those guys I just mentioned there. But yeah, that's how I probably sit with all those players there. So again, I did my top 5 options last week and it was quite difficult. And my top 5 options this week are very, very difficult as well. I think that I'm pretty much going to be saying the top 5 options are going to be from Brisbane, Freos, St Kilda and Sydney. I don't think you can obviously target players from other teams, but I think we're trying to target players coming off the bye. I think Selby was saying on his podcast that all the winning teams for the last 3-4 years have brought in purely like the players coming off their bye. They haven't brought in any players with a bye to come. So for me, my number 1 option would be Andrew Brayshaw. I think he's pretty clearly the best option coming off his bye. So for me, he would be my number 1 option, averaging 111. He's going to be a top 4 midfielder, I believe, for the rest of the year. So I would be looking strongly at him. I think number 2 is Matthew Johnson. I think that he's the pick of the rookies to downgrade to. So I do like him if you don't have him already. I know a few coaches do, but I would be looking at targeting him more so than a Harrison or McDonald, just because you've got that. He's already got runs on the ball with some games. He's in there 22, I think, at the moment, and he's scoring at a decent rate for rookies. So I think I'd have him at number 2. Number 3... I'm not going to include Dunkley because I just assume everyone's got Dunkley. He's owned by 70%. But if you don't have Dunkley, he probably would be number 3. But I won't put him there for now. I think number 3, again, it's very, very team dependent, I think, for a lot of these options here. Number 3, I'd probably put... I'll probably put Sarong. Midfielder, 109 average. He's obviously been very, very good this year, and I think that he's a good option with some good games to come. So Sarong would probably be my 3rd option. Number 4 is probably where I'd put in... I still like Sinclair. I'm still going to put Sinclair at number 4. I know that he's not sort of a quote-unquote like raging pick, and you have to pick... Screaming pick's probably the word I'm looking for, but I'd still do like him. Averaging 96, I think he's going to be a top 6 defender. So I do like him as an option at 830k. So he'd be number 4. And number 5 would probably then be Lockie Neal. I think I'd have to just slot Lockie Neal in at number 5. He's at a cheap price. I know that I did mention the tags, but it's not necessarily guaranteed he's going to be tagged in every single one of these games, and he's a proven scorer in the past, so you could jump on him this week, ride him through for a month. If he doesn't do the numbers you want, then you can trade him out anyway. And best case, he rises in price to 900 plus and he becomes a top 8 mid, or you trade him when he's got more money on his head. So I'd probably have Lockie Neal at number 5. So they're the top 5 targets for this week. Again, very team dependent. People are going to need different options. So I'm not, obviously, if you can get Brayshaw, get Brayshaw. If you've already got Brayshaw, I like Sarong as an option. Sinclair. It's still, if you want to be risky, but that injury would probably make me want to wait one more week and watch him this week and then bring him in next week if you can. But my trades ahead of this week. So I've pretty much narrowed it down to sort of 2 lots that I'm doing. So the first lot is the trades that I like the best, but I'm probably less likely to do them. So it was Pedler down to Harrison. Then it was Sheasel, up to Brayshaw. And then Atkins to Ben Keys, which I like it. I like bringing in Ben Keys. He's going to make money. I like bringing in Brayshaw, obviously. He's my number 1 pick coming off the bye this week. And then obviously Harrison is sort of just the best rookie I can get because I've already got Johnson. The trades that I've actually landed on at the moment, and I think I'm going to stick with them, but I'm not obviously sure. I'll have to speak to Tim on the Friday Spaces and a few people and see what they think. But at the moment, I've settled on Pedler down to Winhager. Now, people are probably going to be thinking, why are you looking at Winhager, right? And this is, again, really basing on the fact that he's going to be selected. I think he will. Break even to 73 means I could wait 1 week, but he's had the bye already. He has been sub in a few games, which is why he's so cheap. Obviously, sub here in these 2 games. He's actually got a decent enough rate being on as a sub here. He's just cheap. He's come off the bye, and I think he's going to get in their team. That's more why I'm targeting him, because he's probably a bit of value. So I don't feel like good about targeting him, but I've already got a guy like a Johnson, so I don't mind getting a Winhager. Then I'm looking at doing Van Rooyen to Fife. So again, Fife wasn't one of the ones I mentioned in my top 5 targets, which I probably could have, but because he hasn't set the world on fire. He only got a 55 last week, but he did have 20 touches, a lot of handballs, which I was sort of encouraged about. Scored 39 in just over half a game against Geelong, with a fair few handballs as well. Just got to add the marks and tackles to his game, which I think will come. He's just at a cheap price that I think I can just afford to take the risk on him. 445k. I'm going Van Rooyen on my bench to him. So worst case, he's on my bench, and I can just keep him and I can downgrade him later on. Best case, he makes some money, goes up to 650, averages around that 80 odd mark, and then I can offload him to a better premium later on. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, and then I'm going Sheasel to Brayshaw. So the Sheasel to Brayshaw one's probably the one that's locked in for me. I need to get off around 15 play just to shore up my buys, but at the moment, Winhager and Fife look like the 2 coming in, which I'm not really sold on, but hey, I just think that I don't mind those moves, but we'll have to see. But anyway, let me know in the comments below, guys, what you guys are doing with your trades. Obviously, a lot of it'll be team dependent with trades this week. So let me know what you guys are looking at doing, or if you've got any trade questions, let me know in the comments below what you guys would like me to comment on, and I'll get to them whenever I can. Also, if you did enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're on our way to 1,200 subscribers. We're 71 away, so if you haven't subscribed, bottom right-hand corner, get involved in the community. We're building a little small watch on community on Saturday nights, and then some Friday nights whenever I do the Friday nights when the Hatch Up Boys are doing it, because I don't want to obviously clash with them. If they're doing it, I want people to go and watch theirs, or I might even jump on with the boys and watch the game with them. So I just don't do it at all when they're doing it. But yeah, we do it every Saturday night though. So this Saturday night's going to be a good game. Freo Richmond. So if I do bring in a Fife and a Brayshaw, it'll be very interesting. I think my captain may come from that game as well, with Taranto and Brayshaw in that game. So make sure you tune in on Saturday night for the watch along. But also Friday night, me and Tim will be live on the Twitter space, which will be streamed on YouTube. We'll be doing that and answering plenty of questions from all you guys. So if you want to get involved in that, make sure you tune in then as well. So appreciate you guys as always. Social media links as well in the description below, and turn notifications on so you miss when I go live or upload any other content in the future. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. So good luck for the week, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. So I'm out. Cheers.